eggnog drinking, and I am crying in my eggnog. They're doing the same thing down in the land of Marvin Lewis in Cincinnati. This guy is a frequent visitor to us here at WNST and the longtime voice of Cincinnati Bengals football as their color man. Played a lot of years out on the field for the Bengals back in the 70s and the 80s. Has seen the good, the bad, and Dave Lapham, I think this is the ugly, my friend. This is, the schedule comes out in April, and you and I are like, oh, man, that's going to be big. You're coming in on New Year's. Let's get some chili dogs and work up some division-winning football. And as it turns out, didn't work out that way this year for you or me, huh?
Yeah, exactly. It's been a disappointment for sure. And but I'll tell you what, both franchises. I mean, I watched Baltimore, Pittsburgh, as did I think the entire country. That's football. I mean, that was just one hell of a football game. I know it didn't go Baltimore's way, and I'd be honest with you, I was rooting for the Ravens big time. And they played their hearts out.
Well, you guys do hate the Steelers more than you hate us. We love that. We appreciate that. we hope to make you hate us more, but we're not there yet. Pittsburgh's just that ugly. Yeah, they're the Grinch.
I just think that I got a ton of respect for both organizations, but I guess what it boils down to is I think not only my respect but my like for Ozzie and for Harbaugh a little bit more, and I just like and respect both those guys to death. So I got a soft spot for the Ravens franchise for sure in that regard. And man, it was a hell of a football game. And you know what? Both games the Bengals played the Steelers were less than one score or less games. And of course we know what happened the first time playing the Ravens in Baltimore. It's just telling Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh. It's battle royale when you tee it up in any one of those cities.
Well, certainly we were all Bengals fans a week before Christmas when you guys were playing the Steelers, and I was scoreboard watching that day. We were playing the Eagles, and I look up and got a nice little lead in the first half, and I'm like, Marvin's going to contribute here. I mean, you go Andy Dalton, and then the second half happened. I guess this has been the story for the Bengals this year. It just the team just hasn't been good enough, and the same thing can be said for the Ravens at this point. But at 5-9-1, 6-9-1 sounds better than a 10-loss season at this point. I'm expecting them to play full out at 1 o'clock on Sunday. I expect it to look a little bit like a preseason game with personnel, but I think there'll be a lot of effort out on the field.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think both Harbaugh and Marvin Lewis will get their teams to play hard. The problem the Bengals have had, they've played hard. They've given effort. They just haven't played smart, and they just haven't made plays at critical times of the game. When you need to make plays, they've made mistakes. Like they did in Baltimore when you had a red zone fumble. You just can't. You had 2 red zone fumbles actually, and one of them right at the end of the game that just killed any opportunity they had in that football game, turning the football over like that. Here's an interesting number. In the last 9 games, or I should say, in the 9 losses that the Bengals have had, they've had 26 drives, fourth quarter drives when the game has been within 1 score. They scored 2 touchdowns. They've had 7 turnovers.
2 for 26 with 7 turnovers, and probably a handful of field goals in there somewhere, right?
Yeah, and there's a couple of field goals, so maybe 2 or maybe 3 field goals. And they've lost the ball on downs. I mean, it's just been fourth quarter has been miserable. I mean, they've outscored the opposition first and second quarter, third quarter it's even Steven. Fourth quarter they've been outscored by 29 points. They've scored 58 points in 15 games in the fourth quarter. And some of that was early in the season. I mean, it has been a dreadful, dreadful stretch. They got their first, since the bye week, they got their first touchdown in the continental USA. The only other touchdown they scored was before the bye against the Washington Redskins in London. Jeremy Hill had a fourth quarter touchdown run. And from that game till Sunday's game, they scored their second touchdown in all that time frame in the fourth quarter in 26 possessions. I mean, it's been brutal to watch. They've been in there. I mean, they're 5 losses and a tie. Their last 5 losses and a tie. It's been by a combined 16 points, 4 points a game. I mean, they're losing by 3 points a game, basically.
But they've scored in the teens routinely. I mean, they've really struggled to get to 20 points, let alone 30 points over 15 games. I mean, it's the offense, right? I mean, and to your point, they move the ball and then fumble the ball, right?
Yep, no question. I mean, defensively, and again, since the bye week was pivotal for the defense. They've allowed 16.5 points a game. since the bye. So, that's 8-game stretch, 16.5 points a game. When they were number 2 in the NFL last year in points allowed, they gave up 17.2. So, I mean, they're playing winning football. You're exactly right. The offense hasn't held up its end of the bargain whatsoever. And, one of the areas that turned out to be a real problem was an unexpected one, the offensive line. I mean, the O-line has just been less than average, no question about it. Right tackle position has been miserable.
Well, and you're an old line offensive lineman yourself. And look, the Steelers had trouble on the offensive line 7-8 weeks ago when we beat them up. We've had all sorts of trouble the first 8 to 10 weeks of the season. When your offensive line is not right, I was talking to Mike Wallace the other night out at Adams Jeep. I said, wide receiver, it's nice you get all the money and the accolades, you get to spike the ball at the end, but so many things have to go right for a wide receiver to ever catch the ball, and that really begins up front. And when that's wrong, the quarterback doesn't stand a chance. The receivers don't stand a chance. And, for the offensive line, I've seen a lot of struggling offensive line. It's amazing when you watch the Dallas Cowboys play on Monday night, even when they're barely trying. They have the best offensive line in football. Therefore, I think they're going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that goes to, where they came from. Martin, Notre Dame, pro-style offense, a real big physical, get after you kind of guy. Frederick from Wisconsin, Big Ten. They pound you. Nobody's running those spread looks, and these guys are putting their hand in the dirt in their college careers and learning how to pass protect and learning how to come off the ball in the running game. Tyron Smith from USC, same deal. I mean, the spread offenses are killing the National Football League because all these teams are, get their offensive linemen in 2-point stances, and they don't run the football. They don't, they don't come off the ball and learn how to run block. Nobody gap block schemes, down block and pull linemen in college anymore. And all they do is throw it, and they get it out of the quarterback's hand in the shotgun in 2 seconds, so they don't really learn how to pass protect.
And then it's 25 degrees, and you've got a 3-point lead in the fourth quarter, and you can't get a first down, right? Literally.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like in college, all they have to do is reroute the guy one time, and they've had an effective pass protection because the ball's out. Well, that's not the case in the National Football League. And like you say, when you have a lead and you run the 4-minute drill, where you want to take the air out of the football and play, ball possession football and grind people, and these linemen are just not taught and conditioned to do that coming out of college. It's a real problem, and I think quarterbacks, like you say, I think their lives are in jeopardy as a result of it. There's no question about it.
How's Andy Dalton looking and feeling at this point? Last I checked, he still hadn't won a playoff game, right? I mean, that's going to follow him around. That's going to follow Marvin around, certainly through Black Monday. I'm not expecting the boom to be lowered on either one of these coaches in Harbaugh and Marvin Lewis. But I'll tell you what, the pregame shows on Sunday are at least going to talk about the two of them as on some sort of a warm seat in a bad year where this division used to always produce 3 playoff teams. This year it's very clear when they get together on Sunday. These are diminished franchises right now that are a little bit wayward. This is the third year in 4 years the Ravens haven't made the playoffs. That's on Flacco, that's on Harbaugh, and that's on Ozzie, that's on Bisciotti, and I think certainly around here they're feeling that. And I don't know that 9-7 or 8-8 is going to make much of a hill of beans on Sunday. You'd like to think that the Ravens aren't going to come out there and lay down and quit in Cincinnati on the last day of the season, on Steve Smith's last game of his career that we expect on Sunday to be in Cincinnati, but both of these franchises are going to have to do a little soul searching here over the next 6 to 9 months.
Yeah, I agree with you. They're going to have to take a review of everything from top to bottom and how they do it and what needs to be done. But I also agree with you that I don't think either coach is going to move on unless that coach decides he wants to move on. I don't think the organization will make that determination because when you look at it, both these franchises are still 2 of 5 teams that have made the playoffs 6 out of the last 8 years. The others are the Holy Grail of New England, Green Bay. You got the Bengals and you got the Ravens. You got the Indianapolis Colts. Now, obviously Green Bay and New England are still New England is, and Green Bay is threatening to get there again. So I mean, they've won Super Bowls and all that. Although Baltimore has as well. Cincinnati and Indianapolis are not at that caliber, but to make the franchise, or playoffs, I should say, 6 times in the last 8 seasons is good for the franchise. So I don't think either of these coaches, and like you said, Nestor, and I totally agree with you, they got their team still playing hard. I mean, on Saturday night, Bengals gave maximum effort. Nobody quit one iota or one snap in that football game. And, shoot, they got a 43-yard field goal to win it. And the kid double-clutched it because, he thinks he's got a jumper. Hopkins, their wide receiver, just like what happened to Tucker, how New England jumped over and blocked his only missed field goal. Well, they had DeAndre Hopkins doing that. And so the holder, Huber, held the snapper, put his hand up and held the snap for a little longer to throw Hopkins' timing off, or threw Hopkins' timing off, but also threw the kicker's timing off. He hadn't been around all that time for them to, work through what they've been doing when you have a jumper for field goals like that, and he false started. He double clutched, and as a result, his steps and mechanics were down. He misses a field goal. But they played their tails off, and Baltimore always does too. And you know what? You make a great point. I heard in the beginning when you were talking, a 9-loss season and a 10-loss season are two different deals. You want to stay away from a double-digit loss season at all costs. And you don't want to have just a 5-win season. You want to have a 6-win season. And you want to be 3-3 in the division. You don't want to be 2-4. You want to be respectable in as many areas as you possibly can. So I think if you're pro with any iota of pride, you go out and you play hard.
He is Dave Lapham. He was a pro and played hard back in the 70s and 80s. Now 30 years on the Cincinnati Bengals radio crew as the color man. He'll be calling the game on Sunday as the Ravens go down to Cincinnati and sort of play out the string at this point. We're at the point where we're looking at next year as the Bengals are and saying, well, this might be Brandon Williams' last game. Kyle Juszczyk. These guys are all going to free agency. Rick Wagner, who's had some injury issues as well. We're playing in London next year. The schedule's going to come out Monday that we're going to be seeing Green Bay on the road next year, Minnesota on the road. We got that central run, the north run, I should say, same as you guys do next year. But I look at the defense for your team, and I see Dunlap, Pecco, Atkins, Johnson, Dansby, Maluga, all these same guys, perfect. Been the same guys for feels like 5 years. I mean, Pac-Man and Aloka and these guys, other than Reggie Nelson, who I saw running around against you guys last week. What's going to change here this offseason? Obviously, the O-line, there are going to be some guys there we haven't heard of yet that Marvin's going to go out and scout and get ready for the draft, and we'll see in Indianapolis and all that. But the defense, it feels like Marvin didn't want to break this thing up, that it was there forever, but it feels like this is going to be the offseason where, next September, October, we see you guys. It's going to be a different look throughout the football team in Cincinnati.
I agree with you, no doubt. They get 12 unrestricted free agents.
12, wow.
Yeah. In the defense, it's the oldest defense in terms of starters, age-wise, in the National Football League. The average age of the starters, 27 years old. I think it's going to be interesting to see if they do bring Domata Pecco back. He's definitely on the back nine. Is he putting out on 18, or is he teeing off on 17? That's going to be the question, I guess. Michael Johnson looked like he aged before our eyes. Ray Maluga is not the same player he once was. So I do think there's going to be a lot of changes. There'll be changes in the defensive unit, and there'll be changes all up and down the football team. What are they going to do with Andrew Whitworth? He's an unrestricted free agent. They kicked him inside to play left guard to evaluate their two young tackles the last couple of weeks. And down in Houston, they had Fisher at right tackle and Oboye at left tackle, and they moved the first alternate to the Pro Bowl inside the left guard. Is he going to be okay with that if they re-sign him, moving into guard instead of playing tackle? The team likes it because he can play guard well, obviously, and then he's also, a nice insurance policy if Oboye fails at left tackle, and there's also a guy that can keep Oboye calm as he goes through the process of learning how to play the left tackle position, being right next to him in the offensive line. So they got questions. Zeitler is a unrestricted free agent, and he wants big money. Will he be back? Drake Kirkpatrick, same thing, unrestricted free agent. He wants big money. Will he be back? Can't pay everybody, as you know. So at some point in time, you have to make some business decisions, and the football team is definitely going to look different. It's not going to be the same when they teed up for 2017. And that would be my message to this football team right now is, look, 2016 was hopefully a blip on the screen, an aberration. And let's have an official burial, an official ceremonial burial of the 2016 season. And on Saturday, it is the end of the year on last preparation Sunday, teed up against the Baltimore Ravens. It's January 1st of 2017. It's a new year. Start off the new year 1-0. You don't want to be 0-1. Half the league will be undefeated in 2017. The other half of the league will be winless in 2017. Why don't you be one of the undefeateds?
He is Dave Lapham. He'll be calling the game on Sunday in Cincinnati. Save me some chili. I'm skipping this one, Dave. But one I'm not skipping is London. You guys played London. Give me a little primer on this. So we've sold a lot of trips. We don't know what week we're going to be there, but I have it up at WNST.net. There's been incredible interest here from our fan base. I have, I don't admit this often, but I do have some friends that are Redskin fans who did make that trip over to London to see you guys play. They enjoyed it. I mean, I think from a fan standpoint, to think we're going to go play the Jacksonville Jaguars at some point in late September, early October over in London, that's kind of titillating to the fan base here. In reality, how did it work out other than on the field for you, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough dynamic. The travel is definitely tough. You know, I watched the guys practice on Friday when we arrived Friday morning, and, man, they were zombies. You know, they were sleepwalking through practice. They recovered a little bit for Saturday's practice and, played a game that ended up in a tie, full overtime period, ended up in a tie. And you hate to see that from a player safety standpoint. And then you got an 8.5-hour flight back to Cincinnati, after that. So, I mean, it was a long, long day on that particular Sunday. You travel all those miles to kiss your sister, basically, and it certainly wasn't what they hoped the outcome would be. But I do think the Bengals bought the third most tickets ever for a game over there in London. A lot of Bengal fans went out there, and they enjoyed it. I mean, they have a great transportation system. The tube takes you everywhere. And there's a lot to see in London. Very cosmopolitan. It's kind of like the New York City of Europe, and great food. Great history there to take advantage of and take a look at. So I think the fans really, really enjoyed it. As far as the players are concerned, I think they just assume not have to travel 7+ hours on the way over with a tailwind, and then 8.5 going back with a headwind. I didn't like that aspect of it at all.
Yeah, I mean, you were a player, so, I mean, you look at it completely different. I'm going over to, hit the pubs and hang out in the eye and take the little circle and see Big Ben and see the Ravens leave the tower and all that other stuff. And I know our fan base, but, from a football perspective, and I know Richard Sherman spoke out about these Thursday night games, to me, London, keep London. Get rid of these Thursday night football games. They're awful.
You know what? I would lean toward that myself. Get rid of the Thursday night games. Do that package in London on the early kick where it's the only game on, and now you have division rivals. So now there's no travel concern. In other words, not the New England Patriots playing the LA Rams, where one's got a lot shorter trip than the other getting to London. So now you play division rivals in London. And the thing is, we found that every single franchise in that stadium had a jersey. I mean, they're fans for every team. So why not have every team go over there and play a divisional matchup over there where it means something, and then maybe have a way to minimize the player safety issue. Have a second bye week, and then you can really roll and take away that Thursday night action. Have 2 byes during the course of the season. Everybody goes to London, and everybody after that London trip gets a bye. And I think they could work it out that way. And I think the networks would competitively bid for it, just like they did for Thursday night.
It's fascinating because I go to the owners' meetings every year. We'll be out in Arizona where I get a little cactus baseball too, and I dig that, Dave. But I would think that the owners don't like this Thursday night stuff because their players don't like it, their coaches don't like it, their personnel doesn't like it, their doctors don't like it. At some point, that they the bean counters like it, but these are wealthy men, and I think they're going to walk into a room at some point. Every Steve Bisciotti and Jerry Jones is going to look at this and say, the Thursday night thing's bad. It's bad for my team. It's bad for the health of my team. The fans nobody likes it, and the games stink. This is one of those ones we need to hit the eject button on and just not do this anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the only reason that it would continue is follow the money trail. Whenever you have any doubt as to why something is going to continue, when a lot of reasons, like you just stated, say that's enough, pull the plug, follow the money trail, and obviously. 2 networks putting those games on, CBS and NBC. They're paying bucks. They're paying good bucks for it. But I do think that the London thing could work. And because to me, I don't see a team working in London. Hell, they'd have to fly over and play 4 games in a row in the States for it to make sense. You can't be going back and forth 7-8 hour trips. I mean, and then competitively, how would you get any free agents to go to London and go through that travel and everything? They'd have to offer so much more money. anybody to even contemplate going over there and going through that kind of a deal. So, they'd have 4 straight games in the States, 4 straight games in London, 4 straight games in the States, 4 straight in London. It'd be a totally different dynamic, and the whole aspect of it just tilts so differently than any other franchise. And, they look for competitive balance in every way they possibly can. I just don't think a franchise in London, I don't see how the scale can weigh evenly. I just don't.
He is Dave Lapham, longtime voice of the Cincinnati Bengals. All right, Dave, I'm going to put you on the spot here about 2 guys we like, Harbaugh and Marvin. I'm going to say the chances of John Harbaugh not coaching the team next September, I'll put it at 10%, because there is a chance that there's something going on there, and Harbaugh doesn't want to do it anymore. There was reported that there's more than 1 year left on his deal, which means that he's around, but that doesn't mean anything. And I think, with Cincinnati, I would put Marvin at 10% to be gone as well, because I don't think the Browns work that way. I don't think Marvin works that way. I don't think Marvin would want to go out in this kind of a year on his own accord. I think Marvin will be back. What percentage do you have on Marvin returning next year?
I think your percentage is fair. I think 10% is fair. I might even lessen it to 5 because
really, wow, okay.
I don't think Marvin. I'm not sure Marvin would leave on this kind of a note either. He does have a year left on his contract, and Mike Brown has never paid a coach not to coach, and then paid another one to coach. That's just not part of his fabric. He's not built that way. And I do think that Mike Brown does respect that how the team has continued to play hard. And, you look at it, Nestor, and you can always find reasons, and, reasons, not excuses. Nobody wants excuses. But A.J. Green and Tyler Eifert played together 2 games this year. Eifert starts the season hurt, he ends the season hurt. A.J. misses half the season. You don't have, and then Vontaze Burfict, missed a good part of the beginning of the season. Now he's going to miss the last couple of games here with a concussion. So your 3 best players, your 3 Pro Bowlers, minimal, not minimal, but certainly not maximum availability. And then it just starts to unwind from there. Giovanni Bernard, on and on the list goes. And I'll tell you, rather than coaching, I feel bad for the Baltimore coaches. They've been doctors with triage. I mean, 20 IR guys last year, 16 this year. My God, how the hell do you keep any kind of consistency and continuity when you don't even know who you're going to have for personnel? I mean, these guys are performing emergency triage, rather than putting together game plans. I have a lot of respect for how they held it all together and had the guys playing as hard and as effectively as they have. I just don't see the coach going anywhere.
Yeah, for the Ravens, when I look back at the season, I'll say, yeah, Flacco didn't play well, and the offensive line was this and that. But the Jimmy Smith thing, I never realized. You talk about Drake Kirkpatrick wanting a lot of money and all that, and, cornerbacks. At the end of the game, we lost to the New York Giants because they had a wide receiver, and we didn't have a corner that could follow him. We lost to the Dallas Cowboys and had a lead at halftime. Lost in the second half because they had Dez Bryant, and we didn't have Jimmy Smith. Ball goes over the top in New England, after Flacco had done, a nice job, getting the team back into the game, some turnovers, scoring some touchdowns at the end. Ball goes over Weddle's head, you lose the game. And then last week it was, very, very clear. And we were thinking about playing A.J. Green. Had the Ravens won, if A.J. Green gets back on the field this week, the Ravens don't have a guy without Jimmy Smith to mark that guy. And I think it was very, very poetic on the Pittsburgh side that it was Antonio Brown reaching out that arm, across the line. The difference between us playing in January and them playing in January was they had a wide receiver that reached the ball, over the goal line, at the goal line, who's the best player on the field at that point, and Antonio Brown. If you don't have a corner in this league, you're in big trouble, man. It's easy to see why the Revises and those guys have gotten paid the way, and Richard Sherman, why they've gotten paid the way they have.
No doubt. And in this league, it's not a lot of times teams match up differently by position groups or whatever the case may be. Like you say, if a team has a great receiver and another team's missing the corner, well, then if that great receiver's not playing, and even the playing field, a lot of times it's like when you play them, not just who you play, but when you play them.
Yeah, we got the Patriots without Gronkowski. That was a blessing. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
We would have had no way to match up with that over the course of 4 quarters with Tom Brady targeting him 12 to 15 times. I mean, it would have been devastating.
I look at the Steelers. the Bengals and the Ravens is a great example. Whatever reason, from a matchup standpoint, the Bengals have won more games in the last handful of games against the Ravens than the Ravens have. I think it's like 4 out of 5. Can't do anything against the Steelers. And then the Steelers just, really struggle to get it done against the Ravens. And whatever it is, whatever position matchup differential there is there in those games, always raises its head and has a big factor in determining the outcome of the football games. That's why when people say, well, Team A beat Team B by 7, then Team B beats C by 10, so A beats C by 17, it doesn't work that way. It's not that simple. It's not just simple math, simple stats. I mean, there's matchups, there's human elements, there's all kinds of things. That's why, it's the greatest reality TV show that there is, the sports, no question.
Well, it's going to be reality on Sunday. The Bengals and the Ravens getting together in Cincinnati. I'm kind of like that Christmas rapping song. I'm going to sit this one out, I think. You'll be there. We'll be listening. We'll be watching. And, hey, cheers to 2017 and getting off to the right start here. I'm sure we'll be visiting again before draft time. It's always great to have you on, Dave. Thanks for the visit, man.
You're the man, Nestor. I appreciate you. Happy New Year to you and your lovely wife, and hope you guys had great holidays, man.
I owe you a crab cake in Baltimore next year. I feel guilty every time Marvin comes to town and I throw you a text. At some point, we're taking you out. That's it, in Baltimore. 2017's the year you and I are having crab cakes and beer, Lapham.
You're the best, Nestor.
You got it, man. Appreciate you. All right, love to the Queen City. Down in Cincinnati, as Earl Weaver used to call it, Dave Lapham, longtime Bengals player and color voice of the Cincinnati Bengals, joining us here on the eve of New Year's Eve. We got college football. The Caps are playing. The Terps are in the Big Ten. And we have just a little bit left of meaningless football on Sunday. We'll be watching, headed on to Houston. We'll be live at Super Bowl 51 in Houston, our coverage the last week of January and the first week of February. So we're definitely going to be doing that. We're definitely buzzing around here. We got the London trip on sale. If you're interested in that, throw me a note, nasty at WNST.net. If you miss anything here through the holiday and through the new year, you can find us in the Buy a Toyota audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We do come in crystal clear. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me. I'm a very available individual. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and streaming live on our Facebook Live, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.